We are here with Vanessa Lisle, and she is a
Oh,
psychic medium in California. I've had some sessions with her over the years. I think it's been 3 years of amazing sessions where she answers questions that I have about galactic history and other things. So I'd like to welcome you to the show, Vanessa.
hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you have a unique life journey. You probably, as a child, were pretty much just like any other kid, but then something happened along the way. Can you give us the details of what happened when you found out that there was another aspect of yourself out in the universe?
Sure, yeah. So I originally, like every psychic, I started out pretty psychic when I was little, and I convinced my dad. My dad didn't really believe in this stuff, and I used to say things to him that he would be like, "There's something up with this kid, like she's so psychic." And then my mom was pretty religious, and she caught me talking to a spirit friend of mine when I was like 5. I called her Ghosty. And my mom caught me like talking to Ghosty, and she pretty much was like, "Don't ever talk to that being again. There you brought demons into the house, all the stuff, that very religious people say." And so she scared me immensely, and so I suppressed it. And then it was around like 12 that whenever I relaxed, my guides would start kind of trickling in with like guidance. Like if I was kind of like not very nice to my little brother, when I relaxed, they'd kind of correct me and be like, "Oh, you know what? He's having a bad day. You need to be more loving and understanding." And so this happened for about a year where I was like, "Okay, I don't think that I'm talking to demons because they keep just saying like they keep like coaching me on how to be a better person and be more loving and be more expansive." And so I left the religion my mom was in at 12. And then from there on out, I didn't hear my guides as well as I hear them today. I started just kind of like trying to hear them better, trying to pay more attention to their guidance. They had me stop eating meat when I was 14. I haven't had a glass of milk or meat for like 20 years. And just for me personally, that's just what they suggested. And I listened to them. And then it was around college where I'd started meditating so much that I started hearing them pretty conversationally, and they would kind of like tune in occasionally. Because I feel like before it was more like impressions, maybe it was words, but it took me years of meditating until it started coming in more like conversationally. Like I know you get intuitive hits, you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, 100%. I think we all have this intuition, and it's usually goes by the name of female intuition or feminine intuition. But I think we all have this,
Mhm.
and maybe the female is more in tune in general. But yeah, we have this guidance that we might not think is guidance from someplace else. We might just think it's guidance from inside of us. But yeah, but please continue.
Yeah, yeah. Perfectly said, honestly, and I think everyone has this intuition. Um, but it was around college time. I think I was 20 when my guides would just like speak to me when, I was in class. They were talking to me about the person next to me. They were, giving me information. And I'd been asking for about a year, like, who are you guys? Because everybody asks that. They're like, who are my spirit guides? And so I kept asking and asking, and it got to a point where I was getting really frustrated because they weren't answering me. And so one day, after about a year of asking and hardcore meditating and trying to find out who these beings that are speaking to me are, I get home from class and I'm like super frustrated. I throw my book bag down. I had like a 4-day weekend, I think. And so I sit on my bed and I'm like, all right, you guys won't answer me who you are. I'm gonna sit here and meditate as long as I need to until you introduce yourselves. And I have a 4-day weekend. I will meditate for days, if so be it. And I like loudly announced this to my room. And I and I sat on my bed and I started meditating. And I'd been very practiced for years, so I went to a very deep meditation. And I think I was meditating for about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, because when you're meditating, it feels like you've been doing it forever. But I meditated for a really long time, so possibly a whole hour. And then all of a sudden, this thing happened that had never happened before, where I was on my bed meditating, and then suddenly I was not on my bed. I was standing up in a big room, a big, big room, like ceiling heights of probably like 40 feet, probably. I'm in a giant domed room, so that the ceiling's rounded, and I'm in this huge, like huge room. To the front of me is a little platform that people are standing on, and it looks like different rooms, like almost like shops, like almost like being in a mall. And then to the left of me is this like indoor park, like inside. So I'm right next to the entrance to the park that's inside this giant spherical room that's like the size of like a football field stadium. I'm in a big room. And this wasn't something I saw in my head. This wasn't a vision. This was I was standing in another room, and I was like, this was like a quick few moment interaction where I was like, I was standing suddenly in this super, by the way, it was so bright that my eyes were having a hard time adjusting. It was so bright, like being in the brightest room you can imagine. And so I went from meditating to standing in this room, and I was like, this isn't my bedroom. And before I could even think, because this was quick, this woman who's like, she's got to be like 6 foot tall, maybe 6'1", because I'm 5'6", and she's standing in front of me, and she's super tall, and she's got blonde hair down to right here, and she's wearing a light blue dress, actually. A lot of people, I'll move on to this, but a lot of people see the Pleiadians in like their like Galactic Federation jumpsuit. I see Reyna in dresses. So anyway, going back to the story of how I met my spirit guide. Um, so she introduced, pretty much. I'm in another room. This 6 foot tall blonde woman with long blonde hair goes, "Hi, I'm Reyna," and then connects with me telepathically. And in that telepathic exchange, when we looked at each other, she gave me a lot of information. Like she like gave it to me. It's like she gave me a block of information when we just looked at each other, where she was like, "I'm your spirit guide. I've been the one who's talking to you." And she reached out her hand and she stepped forward for me to like shake her hand. So she was like, "Hi, I'm Reyna." Step forward for me to shake her hand, gives me all that information in like a split second. And when she stepped, I was so freaked out already that I was in this room I didn't recognize, that when this woman I didn't know stepped towards me, I freaked out and I jumped away from her because I was like so startled, and I was back on my bed. And I couldn't for the life of me. I was like, so I met my spirit guide, and she's like a blonde supermodel. Why would that be? And this was, when I was 20, this was 15 years ago. So like I was in college. I was just a regular, like, you know, hanging out with us at the fraternity parties, and, just being a normal college student. I wasn't really into aliens. I'd never heard of Pleiadians when I met her. Never seen a Pleiadian, never heard of Pleiadians, didn't know aliens could look like people. And after at first I was really freaked out, and I went to my roommate and I told her about it, and I was like, I met my spirit guide. I was like in a different room, but like then I was back in my bed. And what I believe is what happened is, I believe that while I was meditating, they have technology to pull out your astral body. And I believe that she pulled me because I've been taken back there before in other out of body experiences since. And I believe that she's on one of the motherships surrounding Earth. And she pulled me astrally onto the ship. And I don't know what they do to your astral body, but they make it more solid. So like you can walk around. It's like you're there. But it's your astral body, but they must do something to make you kind of more solid when they do it. And so after that, when the voice would chime in, the information, because I'd met her like in that telepathic exchange where we looked at each other, I recognized her energy. And so when she started talking to me, I was like, oh, it's Reyna. And so from then on out, I started talking to Reyna. And I didn't really tell a lot of people about Reyna because I was 20. I wasn't like, none of my friends were really into this stuff. And so I started talking to Reyna and getting to know her more and more. And she told me we're from a planet called Era, that she's from Era, and that I'm originally from Era, my soul. But yeah, sorry, I've just been talking your ear off. That's how I met my Pleiadian spirit guide, Reyna, before I'd even heard of Pleiadians.
And she's an aspect of yourself in the future, is that correct?
In the past. Um, so Reyna is an incarnation of mine when I was Pleiadian. She's part of this envoy program that we're in now. And so when I was Reyna, she put her body into stasis on Era, and my soul was part of the people helping out and what they did. My soul was volunteered to come to Earth for this envoy program, the Starseed program. So my Reyna's body, she was probably, I think she was like 370 something. She was a grandmother. She had a son and two little girls. Because I've had memories come back of my son. And so I was like a middle-aged Pleiadian, I would say, because they lived to be like, 700, 800, I think. So Reyna put her body in stasis, and then and then my soul was escorted to this body, being born as a baby. Like somehow they work it out like that you're gonna pick a body, with compatible DNA, and then I lived my life here, and then when this body's done, I go back and I wake up as Reyna. And then Reyna, after this whole Earth mission, when this body's done and I go wake up as Reyna, then Reyna ends up being on the Galactic Federation mothership that's on Earth at this time because they have time travel technology. Then she's going to be on that ship helping me now.
It's so
Does that,
interesting
does
because,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah.
And so the Reyna that I meet on the ship, she's actually me after Vanessa dies and goes back to being Reyna. Then she gets in the ship and then she comes to help me in the past. For her, she's my future, I'm her past. So that's the actual Reyna that I get to speak to on the ship.
Right. So you're saying that one way of looking at Reyna is that like the maybe the most real way is to say that she's in the past, but then another way of looking at her is that she's the one that you met, the Reyna that you met on the ship is in the future.
Yes, exactly. It's complicated.
Well, that's maybe that's one of the reasons that it's that humanity is still stuck in the matrix is because it is a little bit complicated to grasp the reality out there, which is that there are other aspects of ourselves. I mean, what a wild notion that there's other aspects of ourselves. Oh, there's an aspect of myself in the past who's also could be thought of as being in the future, depending on how you look at it. That's pretty hard to get your mind around. So, we've been dumbed down in school our whole lives in so many ways, purposely. And then as dumbed down individuals with a really limited range of what we think reality is, we come upon this information. Someone comes to a video on TikTok or on YouTube that you made, and you're talking about the Pleiadians, and they're like, what? There's no reference point for them to get into it. I mean, even you who were having these experiences, you felt what's going on? Why is there an alien that looks like a person, first of all?
Yeah.
Who are the Pleiadians? I mean, if she hadn't downloaded all this information to you, you wouldn't have had that information, right? You wouldn't have known what a Pleiadian, you never would have heard the word Pleiadian. You wouldn't have known where she's
So,
from.
so she never used the word Pleiadian with me.
Okay.
She said, all she said is we're from a planet called Era.
Ah,
And it wasn't. And I was just like, yeah, okay, we're from planet called Era, cool. Just kept it to myself. I was like, great, I'm an alien, soul. I'm from a planet called Era. My spirit guide's from Era. I just kept that to myself for like years and years and years because
Oh
I was
my
like,
God.
who would I tell?
Yeah.
You know, who would want this information? And then I started following like some spiritual people, and this one chick said she was talking about the Pleiadians, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And this was like 6 years ago. So I met Reyna 15 years ago. And then I just kept it to myself until about 6 years ago,
Wow.
where I was following the spiritual chick, and she showed an artist's drawing of Pleiadians. And I was like, oh, that's what Reyna looks like.
Yeah.
And then she was talking about like there's a planet Era in the Pleiades. And I was like, oh, Reyna's Pleiadian. That's what we call it. But she's an Aaron.
Right. So do they call themselves Pleiadians, or is that just our name for them?
That's our name for it.
Oh,
She calls her some I believe this is she just said we're from Era. I believe I follow this lady named Elena Denon, and she calls them the Era Hell. And I asked Rena one time if that's what they're called, and she said yes. But that's why she introduced herself as from Era, not as Pleiadian, because that's something we call it.
right. Because I guess from our perspective, we see this star cluster and we say, hey, let's call it something. We'll call it the Pleiades. Okay. But
Right.
for the people in those on orbiting those stars, they might not think of themselves as part of a star cluster. They might just go, this is our star. This is my planet. I'm an Aaron, right?
Yeah. They yeah, she's an Era Hell from Era.
Era hell. Era hell. Hmm.
If you want to hear a little bit about them, Reyna in particular, she is a fifth dimensional Pleiadian. Era is a fifth dimensional planet. Um, they have higher dimensional Pleiadians. Like some people talk about like light being Pleiadians, and there are Pleiadians who have raised evolution so much that they don't incarnate physically anymore. And so that could be what people are referring to as light being Pleiadians, but Reyna, as a fifth dimensional Pleiadian, she is flesh and blood. She eats food, she walks around. She's a flesh and blood fifth dimensional human from Era, essentially.
Right. And so
Which
when
I
she
think
saw you, when she met you on the ship or was about to shake your hand, that would have been
she
a,
was she was physically. The ship that they're on, it's in a fifth dimensional frequency.
right?
I was there astrally, even though I think they have a technology that makes my astral body more solid when they pull you up. But I was in a room where people were walking around physically. It wasn't the room I was in. Reyna was the one talking to me, but there's people in my peripheral who were walking around as well. Um, so
Man, oh man. Well, this channel is really for people who are new to all of this. I'm hoping that the information that the guests provide can help people who are in a dilemma as we start to find out that we're part of a galactic family and they're like, wait, what? But my religion tells me something else and I don't know what to think. To help people transition to this understanding. So for people who are new to all of this, can you give us as if you're talking to, let's say, a class of high schoolers who don't believe in UFOs, think that ETs are nonsense. We're alone in the universe. That's what our science teacher told us. Tell them what a starseed is. What does that mean?
sure, absolutely. So essentially, there are people on this planet who their soul evolved here. We go through multiple incarnations, multiple lives. And there's certain people who their soul comes from Earth's soul matrix, the being that lives in the planet, um, kind of birthed your soul. You pull your energy from a certain soul matrix, you hold that vibration in your soul forever, and you resonate with the planet you're originally from. So some people, all their lives have been spent on Earth. They evolved here, they've lived all their lives here. And that's very typical. Every planet has their own people that uniquely their soul will hold the vibration of that planet forever. And some people here, their souls are actually from another planet, a different planet, and they decided to incarnate in a body here, but their soul isn't from here. And we're currently a third dimensional Earth, whereas what's interesting is there's higher dimensions as well. So a lot of these other souls coming from other planets, like myself, are coming from higher dimensional planets. Like Reyna's in a fifth dimensional frequency, and I had to take a little step down to incarnate in a third dimensional physicality.
All right, so we have this term dimensional. We have so when you're talking about dimensions, you say, let's say third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth
Yeah,
dimension.
they're bandwidths of frequency, really. So right now, as many of you guys have heard, we're transitioning from a third dimensional planet to a fifth dimensional planet. And the reason why we're doing that is for a lot of reasons, but there's some negative ETs, like some factions of the Greys and the Reptilians. I don't know if we can say this on your channel. Hope that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. And they cannot actually go higher than a fourth dimensional frequency. And so oftentimes to get away from them, planets will shift to fifth dimensional frequency to get away from the baddies, right? So right now, Earth's going through a very rapid transition because we have been artificially subdued for millennia to not evolve how we should. So right now the Earth is raising frequency. So we have a third dimensional bandwidth. We're dipping into fourth dimensional right now, and a little bit fifth, and there's a fifth dimensional bandwidth, and they're just rates of frequency. And we're transitioning very slowly from third to fifth. I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, we're just gonna have a flash and we're gonna wake up in fifth dimension. And from Reyna's perspective, she says that you can't just transition from third to fifth immediately because our bodies couldn't handle the frequency difference.
Right.
If it didn't kill us, it would be probably very uncomfortable. People get these things called ascension symptoms, where it's the shifting of the planet sometimes can give people headaches, make people tired, make people sick, and that's a slow transition. Could you imagine the effect on our bodies if we just jumped into fifth one day? So that's not going to happen. We're slowly transitioning to fifth. And like I said with Reyna, how her fifth dimensional planet era has physicality, we're taking our bodies with us. We're keeping our physicality. We just have to transition it slowly so that the transition doesn't physically hurt us. But we're taking on more and more light. We're becoming a higher frequency slowly but surely. So slow that we don't even really notice. But if you were to go in a time machine back 100 years, because we've already raised frequency so much, it would be possible if you went 100 years back and you were just walking around the people on Earth then, they would possibly see you as maybe slightly like a spirit, because
Slightly translucent, you mean?
slightly translucent, because the people 100 years ago are way denser than we even are now in our gradual upgrading, which I think is
Right.
super cool.
Well, so would you say that third, fourth, and fifth dimension, which is another term is density that people use, so third, fourth, and fifth density, referring to the frequency realms, those are essentially material realms, so that although it's a slightly different kind of physicality in fourth and fifth, maybe, but a lighter feeling. But then by the time you get to sixth density, then you're no longer material. Is that true? Or
You can still incarnate in bodies in sixth density. It's a different kind of body though. So, I mean, you could say there's a sort of physicality on every level. I believe six dimensional beings are still incarnating in six dimensional bodies. They're not like plasmic, beings out in the ether. I believe. I know the Arcturians are six dimensional, I believe, and some of the Andromedans, I believe, and they have they have six-dimensional bodies, I believe. I think seventh dimensional and higher, though. I think you're getting more into not physical incarnations territory, I think.
Right,
I'm
right,
not
right.
quite I'm not quite an expert just because I've talked to Reyna a lot about fifth dimension because she's in it and I can ask her stuff. I should ask her more about the higher dimensions.
Well, when we have our sessions, I think we've had 10 or 12 sessions over the last 3 years, and they've been absolutely fantastic. So I highly recommend you to the entire world. And also, by the way, you do mention to me consistently that everyone can do what you do, and that you don't want to necessarily, be thought of as special, and that we have to go to you for this information. If we work hard enough, if we meditate, you say, meditate more, and you can access your own guides, and then they can give you this intel. So I just want people to know that although you are, as far as most of us are concerned, you're very gifted and you have this incredible talent. You yourself are telling people, and you have students that you teach about this, how to access the realms, how to access this information. You're saying take your power, empower yourself. Don't just rely on me. But I do want to just recommend you, if people are just starting out and they're not fully into the meditation thing yet, and they want some intel about the universe or about their own lives, they can come to you, and you will give them really, really, really detailed, amazing information. So for 3 years we've been doing this. Um, I want to ask you, because your guide, Reyna, she's a fifth dimensional being.
Mhm.
Um, I've heard that the blue avians are sixth dimensional, and they take the form of birds when they want to become physical. So they come or humans with bird heads, and they come to our realm, and they appear to us as humans with bird heads, because that's their preferred sort of avatar, I guess you'd call it.
Mhm.
Um, but do you have any intel on the blue avians? Because I think we have them on some of the hieroglyphs in Egypt, where we might think that they were consulted for on the building of the pyramids. I don't know. This is just me sort of reaching out, wondering about this. Why do we have these images in our history of humans with bird heads? What are they doing here?
Yeah, I've met some Blue Avian spirit guides. So when I read for people, I get to meet your guides, which is cool. And sometimes people have galactic guides and galactic soul family that comes through, which is really cool. So I've met some Blue Avians, actually. They are a really interesting people. They present themselves to me, which I always think is cool. I think a lot of them are very tribal, I think, and they present themselves as like tribal. Like they have jewelry, they have gold, they put gold stuff in their hair, they have different hair, like feather hairdos. They're quite beautiful, honestly. They're cool people. I think they paint themselves sometimes too. I see like painted stuff. They remind me of a very like fun tribal race. But yeah, they're really wise. I don't really know about much about them in Egypt, but they're definitely an interesting race for sure. And they're always ready to like give me all their wisdom. Like anytime I talk to them, they're ready to just give me all the so much information.
Would you say that they are the origin of this material called the raw material,
I don't know actually.
the law of one?
Yeah, I bought the book. I haven't checked it out yet. I've heard it's cool.
Okay. Well,
But
it's
to build on actually what you were saying
yeah.
earlier about how I think I always tell people that what I do, I mean obviously I've meditated for, it took me probably 8 years to get to the level I'm at now, but it's because I had natural ability, and I think we all have a little bit of natural ability, and I put in the work. And so on my TikTok channel I have a whole playlist if anyone wants to check it out, called Psychic Tips, to kind of empower people to like connect with your own guidance more, or at least know where to start. And then I teach psychic mentorships, like you mentioned, where I teach people in a month, essentially, how to connect with their guides and read for the people, which is pretty cool.
I think I have a little bit of fear of meditation because it's like you're confronting reality head on. And I'd rather be in the little playland in my head where my thoughts are spinning around in this endless circle, because that's what I know. That's the reality that I know. And I'm like, if I stop that circle of thoughts, that jumble of monkey mind thoughts, then what will happen then? So I'm just like, I'd rather just send you some cash and be like, can you confront reality for me, Vanessa? Thank you.
Oh,
Um,
I never mind helping people out with doing it for them. Don't get me wrong. I just like to say, if you'd like to do it yourself, I have tips. But either way, I think when I was reading for you, I think one of the favorite things I read is I think you asked me the age of something, and it was like 30. I said 35,000 years. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we were, I think it was probably session number 8, and I had, as always, a list of 60 questions that no way we could get to all of them. But the first question on my list was, how old are the Bosnian pyramids, you know? And before I even asked the question, you said, you want to know how old the Bosnian pyramid complex is? And I said, yes, I do. You already, how did you know that? I mean, this is why I love you.
Because
It's
I
amazing.
was talking, because I was talking to your spirit guides. And before we even got to you were like, let's check out your list of questions. And then it's funny, I'll ask something, and before you can answer, your guides will answer to me.
So yeah, it's funny because you don't do research on the Bosnian pyramids as far as
Nope.
so you're not prepared with all sorts of dates and information. I'm actually the one doing research on this stuff, and I have the left brain details on that I've gathered, and then you come along and you totally corroborated that date because Semir Osmanagic did carbon dating of fossilized leaves that have been found underneath construction clay layers in the layers of the Bosnian Pyramid complex. And these leaves were carbon dated at 34,000 years, plus or minus 200 years, something like that. And you said about 35,000 years for the building of the complex. Well, that makes sense because it's going to take time between 34 and 35,000 years to build it, you know. So this is amazing. Do you remember the very first question I asked you in our very first session?
No. I think it was like 3 years ago. What was it?
Three plus years ago, probably. I said, what is our planet's name?
Oh, the tarot question. Oh, yeah, that's so funny. Yeah,
Which is an odd question to ask because you'd think that everyone would know what our planet's name is, right?
right. Yeah,
And
the Pleiadians call us Terra.
well, there you go. And you said your answer then was Terra. Everyone in the Galactic Federation calls this planet Terra.
Yeah, it's funny? The Galactic Federation was actually founded by the Era Pleiadians. So, a lot of people associate the Pleiadian look with the Galactic Federation just because we happen, even though there's all different kinds of beings and races in it now, it's a huge, huge, collective. Um, a lot of people involved in the Envoy program, a lot of people who are here channeling and talking to beings that are working with the Galactic Federation are Arab Pleiadians, a large amount. And they're the typically tall Nordic aliens you think of as when you think of Pleiadians.
Right. Well, I hadn't heard of, see, my learning curve is very steep with all this information, ETs and things, because I hadn't heard of the Galactic Federation when you said that. And so I was like, wow, that's a lot of information. Our planet's name is Terra. I was glad that you said that because for my left brain research, I had said, well, we have all these words in our language, terrarium, extraterrestrial, terrestrial, um, subterranean, terrain, and all of them point to our planet's name as being Terra, not Earth. And so I thought, well, I'm going to ask her. I'm going to ask her, and I'm hoping for corroboration here because it seems to be logical. And then you immediately came in with every star nation who's in the Galactic Federation calls their planet Terra. Nobody calls this planet Earth. And I was like, okay, I can relax now because to me, she's on track with the deep etymological research that I've been doing. So Um, that was nice. Now, as I said, it's weird to have to ask what our planet's name is, but
I
we can,
know.
but we can see how deep the control is of our education when we don't even know our own planet's name, you know?
Yeah.
So I was actually really sad to have to ask you what our planet's name is. I was like, God, this hurts me to do this, but I have to ask this question. So anyway, um, let's see. I'm going to go to my question list. Oh yeah, this is really, really good. All right. You said in one of our sessions that you said, quote, the only reason I can talk to Reyna is that we're soul connected. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so being that I use the Akashic records, all your previous lives, you are innately, all the versions of you are you're innately connected to. And you can access past versions of you, you can access future versions of you through different techniques and the records and that sort of thing. And we have quite the connection, quite the soul bond. And so I am able to telepathically connect with Reyna because we're connected, right? Um, Anybody is able to connect with their own soul family. If you have this bond of love between you, you can connect with your family. I would suggest to everybody watching that it is a very not smart idea to just blindly say, I just want to connect with any ET, and just put it out there. Yeah, that seems dangerous because you never know who's going to connect with you, trickster spirits. There's still not great, beings out there. But it's always safe to connect with your own soul family. So if anyone's interested in connecting with their galactic family and they kind of want to know who they are, I just suggest making it a regular practice of regular meditation a few times a week and asking like, "Hey, I want to connect with my soul family," and just feel into your heart, feel into that heart chakra vibration, and just kind of see what comes to you. Because once you connect, you might get some information kind of flowing to you. So.
Well, because we had been talking about Thorhan Eredion, and I said, "Do you ever talk to Thorhan?" And you said, "I can't talk to him. He's not part of my soul family. I can't contact him." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And then you explained the thing about that you need to be part of that if it's a family member, then you have access to them, but you don't necessarily have access to Thorhan Eredion or any other random person out there, right?
Right. Yeah. I sometimes I'm a little suspicious of all these people talking to galactic councils. Maybe they are, but I'd imagine a version of them is on the council. And that's why they have access.
Okay.
So I want to mention Thorhan. He works with Elena Denon, who I think has a lot of amazing information. Her book, she's also an Era Pleiadian starseed, and her book was just quite a revelation. It corroborates so much of the information I've gotten from Reyna. So, love her. But the reason she talks to Thorhan is because Thorhan is like her husband in the Pleiades. I'm pretty
Oh
sure.
my God. Really? Her husband?
Her partner. Yeah. So that's
Wow.
why, because imagine the Galactic Federation is kind of like, imagine it like the military.
Yeah.
And the people who are on the Starseed program on Earth, I'm not talking to the whole Galactic Federation. In fact, Reyna, she's on a Galactic Federation ship, but I don't think she's like a Galactic Federation soldier or anything like that. I know she's there working on the Envoy program. I think she does some stuff with science a little bit too. I'm not quite sure exactly what she does. I've seen flashes of her working on stuff.
Right.
Um, and she likes to go to the garden. There's like almost like Central Park. There's like this beautiful park in the middle of their this level she takes me to. That kind of reminds me of a mall. To be honest, there's like shops. It's like a multi people come hangouts area. That's the area she usually takes me to when she pulls me out of body to speak with me.
Wow, that's nice. Now
Yeah.
she wrote a book called The Cedars, is that correct?
Yeah. Elena Janan, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even more books than that. I think she probably has some
She's got
more up
she's
there.
got three. You should check them out. They're good. I'd start with her first one.
Okay. Well, my attention span is it's these days for books is hard. Audiobooks are really good for me because I can just, it's so much better. If I can get it on audiobook, I'll listen to it all day. But let's see. I want to have you answer another question. Oh yeah, we were talking about dragons in a session, and I said, do dragons travel in ships through dimensions, or do they fly through dimensions? And if they fly, do their wings work in the same way they work in 3D? And you said there are different, Reyna said through you, there are different physics involved in different ranges of vibratory existence. So in a sense, because dragons are not physical third dimensional beings, they do not rely on wind resistance and physics that would be required of a flying being in our third dimensional reality perception. But they do, in a sense, fly in a different range of physics that we do not have a proper equivalent to compare. So this is interesting because oftentimes when you're channeling Reyna, it feels like she has to figure out a way to talk to me in a way that I can understand because she has concepts and words that are beyond what I know, you know?
I mean, same, to be honest. She, yeah. Oh, well, the funny thing about channeling is you're always channeling through the channeler. So
Right.
I have a lens, I would say, of what comes through gets channeled through my lens. And so she'll use words from my database in my memory. Sometimes when I'm channeling and it's a word I've never heard before, it's harder for me to get. I can get it, but it takes me longer if I don't already have it in my memory bank because I feel like when I'm talking to Rena, she's giving me information that I'm translating. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. And you're doing your best in real time and you're really fast. I mean, you're really, really, really fast and you do a great job. It's really astounding. And that's why your intel is so good and so clear and oftentimes really poetic, like profoundly philosophical and poetic from Reyna. And you're sort of doing it in this staccato way, word by word. You're literally coming word by word with it. And that's how I can tell it's the Reyna part, not you, because sometimes you talk because you've learned a lot from Reyna. So sometimes you don't need to go to the teacher.
Right.
You can just
I'll
go,
hop in
hey,
and then I'll go back to Reina's voice. I call it the robot voice because I'm
yeah.
like when I'm speaking, I'm like because she gives me word by word. I'll be like this, and that's more Reina talking.
And then
Um,
you don't necessarily remember this intel that she gives,
yeah,
right?
yeah. When I channel and I just kind of step my consciousness aside and just let Reina talk.
Yeah.
The part of my brain that is remembering stuff and recording what I'm saying is not active. It's more the part of my brain that's letting the channeling come through. So yeah, it's funny because I remember Jock has been so nice as to let me fully channel and he'll record the session and type it out for me. And he sends me the type outs of what we channeled because Jock will ask me questions and I'll just let Raina talk. And it's funny because when Raina talks, she like doesn't let me breathe when I'm letting her channel. She like forgets that I like just like run on sentences and I'm like, you gotta let me breathe. But some of the information that came through is just astounding. Um, so I
So
really
you
appreciate that you let me do that.
so you're reading this information as if for the first time, even though it came
Yeah,
through you.
yeah, I don't remember it at all.
See, this is the mark of a real channeler to me. And Sue Jones in the Bosnian Pyramid Complex did the same thing. Samir had her come into the Ravne Tunnel, the prehistoric tunnel there, and asked her questions for hours. And I got it all on video. It's all up on the internet, and you can go find that. But Sue Jones, she came out of the tunnels, and I said, we were talking, and I said, "Do you remember anything that you said in there?" She goes, "No, I have no idea what I said in there." And I was
Oh,
like,
I love that.
that's awesome. I love that. But it's on video, so we got it.
I know I have to when I because like in sessions, I usually don't fully channel Rena. I can ask her stuff and she'll give me answers and I tell the client. But when we do our channel sessions, I fully step back and let Rena talk for the most part. And she'll let me hop back in, but when she's talking, I just don't retain it.
And you literally go word by word.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I really love it because it's so authentic. You know, from the very first moment of the very first session, I felt the authenticity of this information, and you're so fast. And I'm just like, oh, this is really good. I got to ask her every question about reality. And I think you mentioned a couple of times you said most people want to know if they were Cleopatra in a past life, and I'm asking you about galactic history, you know?
I love that, honestly. And by the way, it's funny, I've read hundreds and hundreds of people and no one's ever Cleopatra. I've had a few interesting instances. I'm an Akashic Records reader and I can see people's past lives. I did have someone who was a younger Jewish girl and her dad ran a temple and Jesus, Yeshua, came to speak at her dad's temple when she was a little girl. So that's like, I guess that's maybe the most famous person I've pulled up records for.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it must be, I mean, it's compelling also to ask you, like, I also want to know things about past lives, and I have asked you about personal things too, but I'm so, I'm so like, thrilled to know someone who has a direct access to the Pleiadian soul group, the collective, the Pleiadian collective, as you call it, because you say that Reyna says we, right?
He says we when we're channeling because some of the information's coming from her and some information's just coming from the Pleiadian collective knowledge, memory bank. So when we channel, she says we, and I've asked her why, and she says just because the knowledge coming through isn't quite all hers. So it's acknowledging that it's more true for her. She says it's more true for her to say we than I. It's more correct.
Wow. I love that it's kind of like it's a decision that she has to make because she understands that she's an individual and she also understands that she's part of this collective in fifth density. It's obviously a different kind of existence than we have here, where we feel totally separate from our tribe, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Her planet sounds awesome. I've had past life memories come back when I was on Era. If I could tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah,
Air is gorgeous. I've had past lives in two different regions. One region is a little bit more, kind of reminds me, it looks a little bit like Switzerland. And then I think there's a main city, and around it, it's like Switzerland environment. And then there's another area that's a little bit more warm and tropical. In fact, I remember we have these um, big, like banana leaf fern plant things on Era that kind of look like the fern, like big banana leaf uh, plants we have here. They have these magenta colored fruits also that are pretty cool. But so Era's got different climates, and I think we're used to slightly cooler temperatures on Era. I think it's similar, but like a few degrees less. I don't know how to describe it, but it feels cooler, is how I could describe it. But they have all different weathers. They have, hotter summers and things like that. There's multiple moons, and there is pyramids everywhere. They generate their energy through pyramids, which is kind of cool. Also, the cities kind of remind me of, let's see, have you ever seen like Greece, those like built into the cliffs, all the white buildings, Santorini, Greece, all the little like
yeah, yeah.
cottages and stuff. That's what one of the areas I lived in Era looks like, where there are all these houses kind of built together like Santorini, Greece, into the side of the rock.
Wow.
And they don't have money. There's no money system. Pretty much you're never forced to have any particular job. You just pretty much they find out what your interests and your skills are when you're young. And they just kind of like it's very almost like Montessori. They let you study what you want, essentially. And so people just volunteer to help. They'll like post like, oh, we want to build houses, and people be like, I'd love to build houses for 6 months, and they volunteer. and there's no money system. Everything's provided. To be fair, the house I live in Era isn't very big. It's kind of like a cottage. I have a big garden, and it's a round like cottage is how I describe it. All the buildings are round, and on the outside, it's like this like stone colored or maybe cream colored material. And then, but when you go inside, it's clear on the inside. So when I go in my cottage, I can all around me, I can see my whole garden. That's why I have a huge garden around. So it's opaque from the outside, but when you go in, I can see my whole garden around me.
Whoa,
And I like it especially at night.
that's cool. I always wondered, once we advance to, the next level in our society, because we're basically at a barbaric level here on Terra right now in so many ways. But once we advance, that there might be some sort of sonic protection around each home so that you don't have to hear. But then again, maybe on Era, there aren't people with lawnmowers that are like going past you and people with hammers,
Um,
and you know what I mean?
I'll say there's less people. There's less of a it's not quite the population you'd see here. In fact, in this past life memory that came back, I was working in the main city, and then I had to step on this like conveyor belt thing. The sidewalk moves in the main city Era, and I got on this like walking sidewalk thing, and then I walked to a different area, and then I walked up the hill to my house, and there's no one around. It's just up the hill, my garden and my house. So don't they purposely to keep a balance between the planet and the people, they purposely don't have like the population numbers we have here. Pretty much if the population ever got too off balance, they don't tell people they can't have kids, but they'll be like, okay, there's too many people here, and then people just volunteer to maybe go to a different colony from Era. Um, and it's not it's a very pleasant thing. It's not like we had one too many babies born this year, so we got to kick someone out. It's more like, hey, we have too many people, do you guys want to go live on a different colony? And then they'll be like, yeah, I'll volunteer, let's go. It's a very loving collaborative environment, which is cool.
Wow, it sounds amazing. Do you know if, I mean, it's a physicality there, so the women are giving birth in the same
Yes,
sort of way?
yes, they are giving birth. I believe there's options for them if they have like an important mission and can't carry the child. I believe there's options where they can have an artificial womb carry the child,
Mhm.
but most women choose to carry just because they want to. But yeah,
Right.
they have babies the same way we do. A little interesting thing about the Era people is um, they're very free with their love. It's not they're not very, how we have quite like an abstinence culture and a prude culture because of, certain religious leanings here. They don't have that. There's no religion on Era. They just worship the source and honor it. There's no organized religion uh, at all. And so oftentimes people will partner up with like a soulmate, but before people meet that soulmate, they they date, they hang out. It's not uncommon to maybe have a polyamorous relationship in Era. It's not uncommon to maybe be bisexual in Era. Not that's I would say that's the norm.
I think when we look in the mirror here on Terra, we're seeing the genetic material of probably about 22 advanced races who came and tinkered with us over millions and millions and millions of years. And that
Yep.
whole history has been suppressed by the powers that be. Um, so we, it's not surprising that we have some of the desires and traits of, let's say, our Pleiadian ancestors and our other ancestors who gave us their genes. I mean, they're giving us their best genes to try and upgrade this natural hominid that they found here, right?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, because with the Envoy program that I'm on, with a lot of the Starseed people coming in, Because there's like the soul is a certain vibration that's locked in, which we could call soul DNA, right? And then we have the body. There's your body DNA. For the star seeds coming into this envoy program, they specifically had to pick a body that was going to have enough compatible DNA to lock in the soul. So over millennia, so many different alien races have come here and set up like little camps and attributed their genetics to certain areas. And so I specifically picked this body because I'm Scandinavian. I'm half Swedish and Finnish. And if you want, and because it had a lot of era Pleiadian DNA. And if you want to know who has the most era Pleiadian DNA, or other Nordic Lyran descended races, look at the people who are typically 6 foot plus with blonde hair. If they look like them, they have the most of their genetics. Um, so that's why it's a big joke in the starseed community. A lot of these Pleiadian starseeds are blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Not all. I've met African American Pleiadian starseeds, but you have to, absolutely have to have a body that has a significant amount of that DNA of the soul coming in, because it has to be compatible and they have to lock. And if you picked a body that didn't have enough, the soul wouldn't stick and it wouldn't work with the body. So
And it's a fundamental frequency match, right?
it has to be enough of a frequency match to hold the soul, especially because I came in as a fifth dimensional soul. So I needed enough compatible DNA. I also believe with the Starseed program that um, certain DNAs were activated in the envoy bodies too, to kind of tweak us up a little bit because we've been tweaked down. So I think that's also where some of the star seeds find psychic ability just a little more natural without working on it too much. Um, because a little bit of my abilities were forcibly tweaked up, which are natural human abilities that have been suppressed over time.
Aha. And telepathy would be one of those natural human abilities?
Yeah. So all the human alien races are telepathic. It's a learned skill. We all have it. If we were trained, I feel like if we trained kindergartners in psychic abilities, everyone would be so much more psychic, honestly.
Right, right, right. I mean, because you hear endless testimonials of usually girls, let's say a 9-year-old girl, it's usually about 9, it seems like it's really peaking. They have this incredible telepathy. And then in a society that's focused on making money and fear of your boss and fear of not having enough to eat that day, we just lose our natural ability, or we lose our we stop focusing on that, and so then it sort of goes dormant, I guess you might say, the telepathic ability.
Yeah. Reyna was explaining to me about telepathy that they teach it from a super early age. And the cool thing about telepathy is when on Earth, how you can say something like, "Oh, I'm happy" or "I'm fine," and you don't mean it. You know what I mean? Um, with telepathy, you have to do the message mentally, you'll say it, but you have to send the emotion with it. And it's the force of the emotion that pushes it through. So what's kind of cool is dogs, like dogs and cats here, they teach us to use telepathy, because if a dog's jumping on the couch and you just say, "Hey, off," they don't listen. But when you speak to a dog, you send the emotion with it, because that's the only way they listen, because animals are more telepathic. So when you want them to jump off, you say off and you mean it, or you say, "I love you" to the dog. And when you say it, you feel it, you mean it, you send it, because animals respond to the emotions behind it. So essentially, dogs teach us how to properly use telepathy.
It's so interesting that telepathy is an emotional um process, because I think most people would say, oh, it's just words flying through the ether.
It's vibration. You're sending your vibration, your mental vibration to someone else, and the emotionality carries it. You're connecting with the person. Also, I love telepathy because you can't lie.
Yeah, but
There's no way to lie.
you do lose your full individuality, your privacy.
Reyna can have private conversations with people. Um, there's information people can't access unless she wants them to.
Oh,
There's also what I call public information that we just carry in our aura that people pick up on. A lot of psychics, especially in public, you can pick up on public information in the aura. Like the most dominant thing that you can pick up in an aura is like their most dominant emotions they're going through, because that is like a blaring signal you're sending out.
right,
Uh, so that's public information that, you don't have to ask permission. Any psychic could just feel it in your presence because it's
right.
public information. It's in your aura. It's hard not to pick up.
And we could like just a regular person who's not psychic could probably, who's not as gifted a psychic as you, for instance, could still we probably still pick up these things as we move through a crowd. We're picking up the vibrations, right?
Right. The only psychic skill that is our society makes you work on and practice is your empathic abilities. So being able to pick up on a vibe or a mood, that is the only psychic skill that as a society we encourage people to work on. So a lot of people have tap into that ability first.
Well, when you were growing up and you were starting to realize that you had this ability to sort of tap into people's information field as you walk through a crowd, was that hard for you or was that fun for you?
It's pretty chill, to be honest. I was just so used to it. I just knew no, I really knew no other way. That's how I was born. Also, I permanently saw auras until I was about 5. I thought everybody saw them around
Oh,
people, especially
oh.
in class. I remember preschool when I'd relax, the colors would come out around people, like my teacher. And I'd go home and I'd try to talk to my mom about the colors, and she just had no idea at all what I was talking about. But I permanently saw auras up until about 5. Yeah. I
Yeah,
still, if I want to see them, or if I'm very relaxed, or if I'm watching a show, like a play, physically, like people in front of me, there's something about being on stage. I don't know if it's all the attention people's eyes are giving to you, or you're just shining and performing, but I can't ignore people's auras when I'm watching like a play, because your aura gets huge. It gets super, super bigger than it normally would be. And again, I don't know if it's the energy of the collective energy of so many people's attention on you, or that you're just, you're performing, you're shining. I don't know what it is, but that's when I don't even mean to see them. Um, when I'm watching a play, I just see them.
well, it's funny you mentioned plays because I was thinking earlier, just before our interview, that about the questions I was going to ask you and how it seems that the main key to your intel for people who are new to all this is that we have these in the universe, there are these things called immortal souls
Yeah.
that are energetic patterns that survive, and then they take on an avatar, which we could call a character in a play. So all of humanity, as Shakespeare told us, all the world's a stage, right? But it's a stage on more than one level. So we come in to these physical masks, let's say, and we pretend not to be immortal souls. We pretend to be people who are going to die, and everyone grieves at the funeral and they're gone forever. Oh well. And that's the play. That's one level of the play. But then there's also each one of us as we're growing up in this play, we're also masking parts of ourselves that are these real urges that are coming up, and we don't, and society's telling us, oh, you don't want to have that urge, sexuality's bad, and you want to keep the dark side, as it's been called, undercover. So we pretend to be the perfect good girl and good boys throughout our lives, and we do our best at that pretense. And so that's another mask on top of the body mask or the body avatar. So all the world's a stage on two levels at least, and then probably a lot more as we pretend through life. And it's like it's so weird to be here. I mean, it's cool in a lot of ways, but it's like this incredible drama. The Indian philosophy talks about this. They say that the universe is a drama, and they call it Leela, and it means play, play in the sense of, you know, a child playing, and it's all
Yeah,
a dance and it's all a play, and don't take it too seriously. It's all fine.
that's very spirit guide logic right there. That's funny. You know what's funny is people when I talk about Reyna and I talk about how she's another version of me, they're like, "So she's you." And I'm like, "Well, to be honest, Reyna feels like a totally different version. She feels like she's obviously." I was like, "Reyna's a different person. Like, we're not the same. We have
Yeah.
like some similarities. Obviously, I see. We have the same favorite color, which is light blue. That's our favorite color to wear, both of us. Like, I see we have some similarities, but the body that you pick, so the soul is different in every incarnation you have because the body you pick has certain hard wiring that's unique to that body. There's a certain component with genetics, like you'll have like cats that they breed. If the mom's really sweet, the kids will usually be really sweet and friendly. And they've noticed this in like studies with like wild foxes and things like that, that personality is very genetic, honestly, components of it. So that's how like we originally domesticated dogs. We picked the friendliest ones and mated them and had friendly pups. So there's a certain degree of the body you pick. You're picking a certain amount of hard wiring that's going to shape a little bit of how you express that soul in that life. So honestly, every incarnation is obviously there's going to be similarities. The soul's the same, but it's like the mechanism that you're using, the body, the mind, the genetic coding is different. So every incarnation's a little bit different.
Well, I always learn a lot when we talk, and I thought I was just going to be having you say things that I've already heard a million times, but almost everything you said in this entire interview is new to me, and it's fantastic. I just love it. You know, I didn't know about the beautiful round homes on Era, and that you have a garden, and I assume that everyone has a garden there. They're making their own food in their garden, right?
Yeah. My garden has glowing plants, by the way, at night. Iridescent plants, which is my favorite part of that memory. I remember walking home and I was like, it was getting to be evening and I could see two moons. I think there's three, I'm not sure. Also, Era has pink sky sometimes of the day. Pink purple sky, which is pretty cool. Um, and then something else that's funny is I've had past life memories come back from Era, obviously. All my past life memories, all we eat are fruits and vegetables.
So
I
there's no processing plants for like slaughtering animals and chopping them up and all that kind
no.
of thing you do.
Um, actually, this is funny. Reyna made me go. Like I said, I haven't had meat or a glass of milk in 20 years, and that was because Reyna told me it's going to be better for my body because I have a lot of the Arab Pleiadian genetics, and the Arab Pleiadians don't consume meat or dairy. I think there are other Nordic races that do, but they don't on Era. Their physicality doesn't allow for it. And granted, on Earth we're a mix of all these different alien races, including reptilian, which is a carnivorous race. So it just some people do better without meat. I've noticed talking to people spirit guides. I would say 99% of people I talk to the spirit guides, they do better without meat. But, because I have no horse in this race, I have talked to a select few people in my sessions where the guide suggests a little bit of lean meat for them because of their genetic makeup, which I find interesting.
Right. So it all depends on the genes from our
Our
ET
hodgepodge, because
ancestors.
we're all weird mixes of something. The people with more reptilian genetics do better with more meat.
Right. Right. Right.
The
Right.
people with more
That
Lyran genetics probably do better with less, I would say, if I had to say. Also, something kind of interesting, based on everything that I remember eating on Era, I remember eating actual fruits, fruit juices, water that we put like these crystals in to like add a vibration to it, and then like salads. I'm pretty sure the Arab Pleiadians are raw vegan. I'm pretty sure.
right. 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 But I mean,
That's all. That's all I remember eating for the
But
most part.
they do, I mean, I'm assuming that the mothers breastfeed their children, so
They
there
do?
is milk, but it's human milk, it's not animal milk.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're I mean they're humans. But they don't like milk women and make drinks out of that to give to adults.
Right, but I mean, so the women are breastfeeding their children with, so it's not like they're fully vegan in the
Oh
sense
no,
that they don't
no.
have any
Vegans?
breast milk,
Well,
right?
vegans? No, I mean vegans. Breast milk's vegan because it's just you're not eating products from animals.
I see, I see, I see, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. I think we've probably accumulated a lot of karma by killing animals for thousands and millions of years here on Terra. And I think that's, if we're going to ascend and evolve, which we are going to, and Alex Collier says this too, he says that we're going to have to stop treating animals the way we've been treated by the reptilians, you know?
Right. Yeah, they foster that culture greatly. They're
We
the ones at the top pushing so much meat. They're the ones at the top. That's part of their agenda. Um, I respect how anyone else wants to eat. As long as I don't have to eat meat, I'm happy. But Reyna, when I was 14, told me I had to go vegetarian, and it's because it helped to maintain a certain high vibration that eating the meat of these tortured, slaughtered people or beings, sorry, not people, would make it harder for me to keep the vibration I needed to keep to be here as
right,
part of
right,
why
right.
I'm here.
Now, you also mentioned that you did work really hard to have clearer and clearer access to Reyna. And so, can you tell people what it was like in the beginning when you first talked to her?
Right. It would happen more when I was relaxed and it would be impressions. You know what I mean? Like I would get the vibe of what she's trying to tell me, but it wasn't like super clear. I would get a word occasionally, rarely, and I would get impressions where she would just kind of like give me the gist of what she was trying to push. Like, be nice to your brother or stop eating meat. I got the gist of it. She'd be like, this bad, this good. And then I just started meditating all the time. And then I started doing little tests for myself. Like my whole psychic mentorship course is all just exercises that I figured out by myself to help me expand my abilities. Like I remember this one instance, I was my best friend Katrina, she's still my best friend to this day. She was my roommate in college in an apartment. And I remember I had no idea her schedule, her work schedule, her class schedule. So I'd meditate and I'd be like, what time is she going to be home? And I remember one day I finally could hear a time to the minute. It was like something exact, like 8:37. And literally that night, 8:37, she walked through the door to the exact, I wrote it down and I freaked out. I was like, oh man. But honestly, if anyone wants to start getting more in tune with their abilities, just you have to. I hate to say it, it sounds lame, doesn't sound fun, it doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't sound like the new coolest thing, but you have to start setting aside time every week to sit down and quiet your mind and learn to consciously relax and be open to what information comes.
Because we are living in a culture that encourages us to be extremely busy in so many ways, right? Physically and mentally busy. We're always worrying about the next moment, the next day, whether we're going to get to pay rent, whether we look good enough to be approved by the opposite sex, whether we're going to make a good impression at our interview for this job that we really need to get because the mortgage needs to be paid. And so we're constantly being encouraged to be in this tense state of being. And Alan Watts talked about this. And you actually talked to Alan Watts in a session we had recently, our last session. We got a chance to say hi to Alan Watts, and that was really, really nice. It's nice to hear. It was nice to hear that he's doing well and that he's happy in the realms out there.
Yeah, it's funny. After we talked, I got to listen to I looked up videos of him. I'd never looked him up, and his voice was the exact same. So funny when spirits come in, they speak how they sound to me, how they sound,
Yeah,
how they did sound. That was a trip.
It's so interesting that the accent comes through when he's an immortal soul with an accent. That's hilarious to me, you know?
Yeah, well, there's a version of you that exists after you pass away that I can access. So I talk to a lot of people's past loved ones for them, and they come through with their voice to me and their personality, and yeah, it's honestly it's a trip. Sometimes I'm like, I can't even believe I do this for a living. It's just so crazy.
It's so interesting that it seems to me what you're saying is that the soul is has the aspect of the accent. It's not necessarily like or you would think that it would be the vocal cords and our upbringing but it's more like the soul is like retains that
Yeah,
aspect. I don't know. It's
that's a good point, actually. Yeah, it's not like you're speaking from vocal cords, but yeah, you sound like you. You do. That's so funny.
wild.
I guess it's just an impression of who you were, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, like it's a facsimile of the physical guy with the vocal cords and the upbringing. So it's like a facsimile.
And they'll appear to me in my mind's eye how they looked too. I'll be like, okay, so your grandma's passed, right? They'll be like, yeah. I was like, does she have the really dark curly hair? And they'll be like, yeah. So
Well, it's been amazing talking to you. You're working on a couple of book projects. Can you tell us about those?
yeah, absolutely. Currently, I'm working on a book called The Beings, which is being put on by the Near Death Institute. They help people with near-death experiences, and they previously put out a book with 10 authors talking about like people who had near-death experiences and like their mystical, crazy, and experiences of because people oftentimes in near-death experiences will go from being atheists to believing something's out there real quick because these mystical experiences happen.
Right.
And their current book that they invited me to be a co-author on is about people with extra dimensional and ET experiences. So my chapter is going to be on, of course, what I've talked about today, my very close relationship with Reyna and, our connection to the Pleiades and all that. So
Would you call Reyna an extra dimensional or what would you call her?
I would call her extra dimensional because she's not this dimension, I guess. I mean, honestly, these are all relatively new terms, and I think they mean different things to different people. But I guess for the basic, she's a different dimensional frequency because she's fifth dimensional. And
Well,
then, I mean, there's also sometimes when I channel, there's also aspects of me that exist in higher dimensions. Uh, I'm not quite as familiar with them, but when I'm channeling my higher self, I sometimes information comes in from like the ninth dimension and things like that. So there's versions of me on all these dimensions because time doesn't exist. And as I evolve, I'm going to evolve to fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, whatever. And so it's funny, we all are so multidimensional that even when you're speaking, even when you're talking to, maybe you're giving good advice to a friend, sometimes people kind of do this thing where you're channeling your higher self and that information's coming in and your higher self exists on so many different dimensional levels. Sometimes you can be pulling information from those higher levels even.
when you say time doesn't exist, I'm assuming you mean
Linear linearly, like what's the word?
yeah, linearly.
Yeah. Linearly, time doesn't exist for everyone how we perceive it. We perceive it in one direction, whereas some of these higher dimensional spirit guides I've talked to higher dimensional beings who are not embodied anymore, and they experience everything all the time at once.
Well,
Their concept of time is so different than ours.
the way I think of it is all of existence is on a DVD and we can access just like we can access a movie on a DVD. We can go to the first scene or the
Yes.
scene or the middle scene. We can access any part of that timeline. So within the DVD, there is a timeline, but because we can access any part of the timeline, if we have the power to, if we have the understanding, we can access any part of it. In that sense, time doesn't exist.
Yeah. So when I do Akashic record readings for people, to be honest, all your lives are happening concurrently right now. Because I even go into people's past lives and we do healings. And for them, it's very real for them in that moment that they're experiencing their now time and you're experiencing, and our perception is just like it's like the wheel of like Wheel of Fortune, and you our perception is the little thing that when you spins, um your focused attention, you're the only reason you're experiencing this life is because your focused attention is put on this life. I
Right.
feel bad for people who are dealing with mental imbalances like schizophrenia and stuff because I do think that because you're out of balance, I think your perception is slightly maybe into different dimensional planes a little bit. I that's funny. It's a belief I've only had from talking to schizophrenic people because what's funny is there's this phrase that the schizophrenic is drowning in the waters, that the psychic swims in just fine.
Most of the mental illness that we call mental illness here on Terra is from the medications.
There is so I talk to so many clients, right? There it's so rare that Reyna thinks a medication is good for someone. So rare. It honestly, if it happens, it surprises me. She suggests nutrition to treat things. She suggests rebalancing your energies. She suggests very high amounts of certain vitamins, which is interesting. I'm like, look this up because I'm I'm a medical intuitive too, where I read what's wrong in people's bodies and ask my guides and they prescribe stuff, and I've helped people get pregnant when they couldn't. I've helped people lose weight when they couldn't. I've diagnosed people with diabetes when they didn't know or they just got diagnosed. But yeah, it's really interesting. Raina talks about very often that um, so all disease is unbalancing. She describes everything in terms of vibration and energy, and she always describes whenever someone's sick, they're unbalanced, and
Mm.
she gives suggestions to bring the body back into balance. And you can balance your energies. It's about balancing your energies. And you can do that through healthy food, exercise, things like that. But that's all disease is just you being off balance from Raina's perspective.
Well, even modern science, which is a controlled science meant to dumb us down, even this science recognizes something called homeostasis, which is the body coming back into balance if it's able to. It's always wanting to come back into to balance as long as there's not some force keeping it off balance. So modern science recognizes that, and this, but they what they don't tell us is that this is the beautiful magical DNA constantly broadcasting, rebroadcasting this incredible intel from the center of the galaxy. We're receiving with our DNA antenna these life blueprints, and we're rebroadcasting it, and that's our body. And for it to be out of balance, is the body doesn't know. It's like, oh, we want to get back into balance. So as soon as it gets out of balance, it's always trying to get back into balance because it has this incredible, powerful information from the center of the galaxy coming in and being picked up by the DNA antenna. That's why they're like this, their antenna, and they rebroadcast it as their body. So it's like we're not told this at school. We have to go to Ken Rolla, or we have to go to Alex Collier outside of academia to get this incredible intel about our bodies and what DNA really is. It's receiving and then rebroadcasting information. And so homeostasis is just their word for, well, we don't know why, but the body wants to come back into balance, and we'll just call it homeostasis, and don't worry about it. We have these drugs, and that's really what you need.
Yeah, I quite like Alex Collier's information as well. A lot of it does really match up with Reina's. Um, you know what's funny about schizophrenia is I've treated it from spirit guides. A lot of them, your B vitamins, you need more. You need like a ton of vitamin B3, like super doses. Niacin will help with schizophrenia. Anyone out there? But it's very individual. Everybody's a little bit different for the most part, though. What's funny about my schizophrenic clients is they're some of my most psychic clients. And my mom actually has schizophrenia. And so I think almost all schizophrenia is just an imbalance, that you can bring the body back into rebalance. I think you've just slightly, we have this perception of this reality, and as a psychic, we can meditate, I can raise frequency, and I can go a little bit into spirit realm a little bit to speak to, guides and stuff. But then I come back to normal reality, and I don't have spirits just talking to me all day long unless I choose to, tune in, raise my frequency a little bit, listen. I think the schizophrenic, they've somehow unbalanced themselves enough where, say, this is third dimensional reality, this is the spirit world. I think they've accidentally skewed their viewfinder, their point of the movie they're looking at, their point of this reality they're looking at. They've slightly skewed it a little bit too far into a different field of dimension that, as a human trying to do regular 3D human things, it makes it really hard because they're getting information from this other area
Right.
as well. And so what really changed my mind about schizophrenia was I had this client. She's like, I'm wildly schizophrenic, diagnosed, but I want to talk to my guides. And I was like, cool. And she asked this question. Mentally, I asked the question of the guides. Guides answer back a sentence. She's like, I think I just said my whole question that I mentally asked, and then said their whole answer back to me. And I was like, whoa, because she heard it. She heard it like I heard it verbatim. And that's when I had to sit down and be like, what is schizophrenia? I'm fascinated, you know? I'm sure parts of it are the mind. I think parts of it are the mind interpreting just so much extra data that we're not used to. That I'm sure it's a little column A, a little column B, where yes, there's a real phenomena. You're really picking up on spiritual data. But I also think the mind is interpreting it in a weird way. So I think it's a little column A, where it's a little bit the mind making its own stuff up, and a little bit of there's a real phenomena we're observing.
Right. There might be a little bit of, I mean, there might be a lot of self-judgment of the information coming in because society has formed our perceptions of this information. And so we're using
Right.
society's judgment and we're saying, oh, this isn't good, this isn't good. So we're judging our own information that's coming in. And so we're like in a bad situation then because we're divided against ourselves, you know?
Exactly. And like there's so many tribal societies that they take the schizophrenic and they train them to be a shaman. And
That
they're
it,
like,
yeah,
they
it's fun.
recognize that I just think that the schizophrenics, like again, how they say they're drowning in the waters, the psychic is, they've put themselves so off balance that unfortunately they can't control it. And so it's overwhelming. They can't shut it off. Like I can shut it off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I don't want to connect. So yeah. And then, that's fascinating.
Well, you seem to be really empowered. You seem to sort of be really, really grounded. You know who you are. You know what you want. You can shut off the realms if you want. You can access the realms when you want. And you are able to negotiate through or navigate society which demands that we make money to pay rent. You're able to do that by because people come to you for your intel from the realms, you know, because you have a really special gift, and I can attest to that. So, now you're working on your own book. It's going to be a little while, but it's going to be basically you're going to be talking about the intel that Reyna has given you.
Yeah, it's going to be a very heavy focus on just the absolute wisdom that she has given me. Rita's so mature. She's so loving. She's just so like her amount of mental maturity and love that she just has for everyone is just astounding. And her wisdom is so cool. And I just want to share it. Just because I mean, honestly, I always joke, like, I hope to grow up and be Raina someday. Because while she is me, she's just so understanding and wise. And she tells me so much stuff. I'm also going to incorporate, I talk to so many spirit guides all the time, and they say such cool stuff that I want to bring forth this, all this wisdom. I want to go really in depth about Pleiadian society from what I've been shown in past lives and what I've asked Reyna about. Because I could talk for hours about Pleiadian society and how they do things differently. And then I'm incorporating actually channeled, just full channeled material, some of it that actually Jock I recorded with Jock, and Jock typed up for me, which I really appreciate. But yeah,
Well, yeah, the sessions have been full of such incredible intel. I'm like, do you know what you said? Here it is.
it's crazy. I know some of those pages you sent me, like the I think once you asked me about your book title, and I think it influenced what you're calling your book.
Yeah, because I wanted to know. I thought, well, here's a woman who has access to the entire future and past of the entire universe, and so why don't might be overstating it a bit, but why don't I ask her what the best for the highest good of the universe or whatever, humanity at least, what book title is the best title? Should it be Who Terraformed the Earth or Who Terraformed Terra? If you had to choose, which one? Tell me, all
Yeah.
the people who know out there, who know the future. And you said, well, Reyna said,
I
she
think
started,
she compared language to water at some point. Honestly, that whole thing was so cool. If you want to share it somehow in this, if you want to quote, actually, if you you could quote it in the description if you want to share that with my full permission. It's such a cool answer. And it'll maybe give people a taste of what it's like when I channel Reyna. If you
totally.
want, with
Yeah,
full permission.
100%. And she was saying that words have this resonance,
This,
and this
mhm.
resonance is going to flow like water through time in humanity. And so if this
Yeah.
she's asking the question. She's not even telling me what to do. So you're channeling her, and she's saying, "What do you feel about the resonance of Terra? What do you feel
Reyna,
about the resonance
yeah,
of Earth?"
Reyna loves to answer a question with a question. Literally, she does it to everyone. It's so funny. She'll be like, "But what do you think?" You'll ask, and she'll be like, "So what do you think? But what do you? Why are you asking? Why are you this?" I'll be like, "Reyna, just answer the question." She loves. It's so funny. She loves to do that.
But that's
Um,
that's that's brilliant. That's what a really good teacher does, is to get
yeah,
you to think about it, right?
yeah. I wanted to share a little bit because I was talking to Raina about what I should share on this. I wanted to share a little bit about our future and what we're heading towards. So in the future, we are going to have open contact. We're going to join the Galactic Federation of Worlds as a galactic member. We're going to join Galactic Society very soon, actually, very soon. Um, and then we're gonna have once what's cool when you join the Galactic Federation is as a member they share technology. So we're getting healing technology. We're getting amazing, beautiful technology that's really going to help us. Also, we're going to be able to visit other places, and we're also going to be able to have colonies that go live other places too. Just because the way the balance is right now, this planet has too many people on it. So there's gonna be options for, I think there's gonna be like floating ship cities that people can live in that are just absolutely beautiful. The ship Raina lives on it's beautiful, it's huge, it's like a city. And the Earth is gonna balance out a little bit more because we're gonna have less people on it. We're gonna switch to Vril, which is free energy. Um, and it's the symbol of the Ankh. That's what Vril is, and we're gonna get all the free, energy technology that was given to Tesla that we just weren't quite ready for. And so it's gonna there's not gonna be fossil fuels. We're gonna get rid of pollution. We're gonna have less people on the surface of the planet because they're gonna be in like the floating cities and then go other places. There are gonna be people on the planet, of course, always. But the Earth's gonna kind of heal again and recalibrate. Our oxygen level is way too low, Raina says, for optimal human health. So we have to have more plants to balance that.
Right.
And so the whole planet, we're not going to die in a nuclear war. The Pleiadians would never let that happen. The Galactic Federation would never let that happen. We're not going to die of climate change. They're going to bring back the genomes of a bunch of extinct animals. So I just want to say there's so much like fear out in the media, and Raina's just assuring me we've already won. The powers that be, these baddie alien races that have been very stifling and controlling of us, the evil factions of the Anunnaki. There's good factions. Now we're working with the good faction. The Orion Greys, which I'm not a fan of. at all. And the reptilians, they are systematically, they're removed from our planet currently. They were here for a very long time. We have won this war. The whole reason the star seeds are here, everything we've won. We're just now through the process of, we're almost at that finish line, and we've succeeded. We're heading towards such a beautiful, bright future. And being on this planet is hard sometimes, but I want to say to all the starseeds out there that your efforts were not in vain. We all came here. Some of us were even just here to hold a high vibration to help Earth transition. Some of us are here as healers, some of us are here as teachers, and we brought all this wisdom, and we've left our beautiful planets and our homes and our families to be here, and we won. And, we can all kind of take a step back and be like, job well done. Obviously, there's more work to do. But we're all here collaboratively creating a better future, which is really cool.
So you would say you're optimistic. Your general
Very.
outlook is basically optimistic about humanity's future.
Yeah, Reyna's in the future right now. She is, I'm gonna live to be an old age. Obviously, I have no idea how old that's gonna be, but after I pass away, I imagine, hopefully my 80s, let's hope, or something like that. After I pass away, then I get to go be Reyna again, and the Reyna I'm speaking to is Reyna from probably 100 years in the future, as far as our timeline. And yeah, she's like, yeah. And she's the one telling me, like, showing me, like, it's the planet's healing, it's beautiful. You know, people are always stressing out about climate change and stuff, and all these are all just controlled programs to, if you scare the population, you can control them more. And that's what all the scary news stuff, it's owned by the elites, all the news channels, all the programs, and they're all just trying to scare people to control them more.
I remember in our last session, I was saying a lot depends on this U.S. election coming up, and you said, well, no, Rain is saying that that's not a big that's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. And I was like, oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
she's very
I don't
she's
want to have
very
to
don't
worry about it.
she's very don't worry about a lot of the scared questions I have and people have about the future. Honestly, I just hope, because we create our own reality in a sense, that
Yeah.
if enough of us think something, that collective energy is so strong. So say the news channel are saying World War III is coming, World War III is coming. If enough people fully believe World War III is coming, they can pull that into this reality. They could pull that into, it makes it a heck of a lot more likely, because we're all such powerful manifestors. If you get the collective to all carry one vibration, that vibration is insanely strong in the fabric of this reality. And so that's why I'm always, the Pleiadians especially, they're always encouraging people, don't be scared. Don't create that fear. Don't create that scary future. If you don't want it, don't think about it. Don't dwell in it. Don't fear it. Don't anticipate it. Just accept that it's not going to be part of our reality anymore. And it's standing in our power to choose what we want, not to be influenced by these radical groups that have been controlling us. We can choose our own path ahead. We don't need to be influenced by all the fear porn and the news channels that are run by these reptilian agencies, you know?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, when you mention reptilians, I want to make a distinction between at least two groups. I believe you're talking about generally the
The
Drake.
Sakaar.
Yes, the Sea Car is, I guess, their real name, and then we call them the Draco
Yeah.
or Alpha
Yep.
Draconians because they're from that star
They're
system.
from the Draco system, yeah. But
Yeah,
I'm speaking mostly of the Sakaar.
mostly of them. But then we have this other race, the Saurians, who've been here for much longer than we have, and they're neutral to us. They're not trying out to get us, and they're just living their lives underneath the ground, right?
There's two other reptilian races here. There's these ones that uh there's the Naga, and they're the underground ones, and they've been here for quite some time. They claim to own this planet because they were here first. They
Mhm.
were not, actually. They just discovered it after it was already discovered by the Intergalactic Confederation.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I
Our
mean,
galaxy has a galactic federation, but all the galaxies together have an intergalactic confederation.
okay. Now, when you talk about the Galactic Federation, you're talking about the Galactic Federation of Worlds, right?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make clear because there are all these councils and federations out there, and I get so confused. And so I just want to be clear that that's the same thing that you've always been talking about in our sessions when you mention the
Yeah.
Galactic Federation. Yeah.
Yeah, Galactic Federation of Worlds,
Okay.
founded by the Era Pleiadians, very involved in this starseed program.
And can you briefly, just before we go, tell us about your Envoy program? What specifically is the Envoy program, and who created the Envoy program?
Sure. So Reyna comes from about 400-ish years in the future, and it's a it's a different galaxy then, because the Greys had taken over this planet, and what they do is they were all hooked up to a hive mind. There's like a hive mind AI Grey Queen, and everybody's tuned in, kind of like the Borg from Star Trek. I've heard. I've never seen Star Trek, but I think people compare it to that, where they don't really they think as a they're controlled by the Queen. They're like tuned into her AI, and so they don't really think for themselves too much. And so they assimilated this planet, and everybody was hooked up to the AI and not, their individual free selves. And then they just took over so many planets in this galaxy. And we were in war. I remember when Reyna decided to come here, it was war. It was all out war. And so I think it was the Andromedan Council figured out that there was this like nexus point where they were like, what was the turning point? How can we stop this? How can we stop them just destroying everything and taking everything over? And it was when they took over the Earth humans, because we're very special. We have very special abilities because we're made of more alien races than anyone else. And all these different alien races have different gifts and skills and levels of multidimensionality that most races not, not every race has.
Right.
And so when they took us over, it was such a particular turning point that they figured out that if they go back in time and they stop them here on Earth, because the Greys have been here since I think Eisenhower's time. Uh, if they stop that whole process, they can stop this ripple effect of the Greys taking over the galaxy, essentially. So they made a call out to be like, hey, we can fix this. We can't interfere because the Galactic Federation has a code where they can't just go to a planet, take it over, and be like, "Hey, we're just going to fix this." They can't just invade a planet because they don't want to have a bunch of casualties. It's a code of conduct where they can't influence the free will of a developing planet, but they figured out a way around it with the Envoy program, where you can volunteer to be born here. You're going to forget all your memories, and you're just going to hope and pray that you'll remember who you are and why you're there. And so they made this call out to be like, hey, who wants to come, decide to incarnate on this third dimensional planet? You're going to forget your memories, but, you're going to have guides and assistants, and hopefully you remember. And we're going to help from the inside. It's going to be an inside job to turn the tables of this terrible war that we're in.
And even if we don't remember the specifics of our
You're
lives before, we can still be on a mission and fulfill a mission without even knowing that we're doing it.
Yes. We're very, very, all of the envoys are super guided, very guided by your soul family, by the people putting on the program. But also, some people are just here to hold a certain vibration because, again, a lot of us are coming from fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. And you're carrying that higher soul development, that higher knowledge. You know what's funny? We've gotten a ton of envoys in the last 50 years. You see how even American culture changed so drastically in the 70s. We had this beautiful music come in. We had this free love culture. We had this culture of loving each other and human rights and things like that. That was directly proportional to how much of our population was now higher dimensional envoys.
And were those mostly from the Pleiadian soul family?
There's so many different races. So there's different Pleiadians. There's Pleiadians from Timar or Temur. It's right next to Era. They're more brown haired, more human. They look just like us, the Timar Pleiadians.
Right.
And then there's honestly there are hundreds of planets in the Galactic Federation that are Lyran descended humans. Not humans quite like us, but super similar. Just because like Reyna doesn't have uh reptilian DNA, but these bodies that me and you are into.
Mm.
But we're still human. There are hundreds of alien races that are here on the Envoy program. So it could be anybody. A good majority of them are from the Pleiades constellation, just because there's a lot of them in the Galactic Federation because we started it. There's a lot of Syrians, there are Alpha Centaurians, there are people from Polaris that are, tall Nordic. These are just the Nordic races, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all different kinds.
So who's managing, or who's sort of like at the head of this, the managerial staff of this Envoy program? Who's directing it?
I believe um the Council of Five. I think they're based around Orion. So there's different groups. There's the Andromedan Council, which is quite a big deal. There's the Council of Five, and then there's the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And there are three different groups, and they all have different rules. And I think the Envoy program was put on by all of these three groups are involved.
Got it. Because I know Alex Collier does talk about the way he talks about the Andromedan Council is with a great deal of reverence and respect. And I feel
Yeah.
like they are regarded by other races as extremely wise. They're they're
Yes.
they're going to be the council that chills everybody out and says, "Look, let's talk about this. Let's get this under control, and let's."
They're they are the ones who brought to the everybody's attention that hey, this is that nexus point. We can come back to Earth and save this. Let's make this Envoy program. They were the impetus because they have some very talented psychics that can see the future of the past. You know what's an interesting fun fact that Reyna told me that I can't wrap my mind around is that good psychics are valued by the Galactic Federation of Worlds immensely. They'll hire good psychics, which means not everyone is a really good psychic, even on Era. So a lot of these envoys are particularly skilled psychics on the planets they're from because they were going to come here, be put in a tweaked down body where your natural psychic abilities were, they tweaked some up, but you're in a body that is tweaked down a little bit from what you're used to. And you're just going to try and hope you can connect with your spirit guides. A lot of the envoys here are the skilled psychics from where they're from.
It's amazing how we mirror our ancestors' societies because we have this reverence for skilled psychics here too. And
Oh yeah, it's yeah, and it's just funny to me because everybody's telepathic on Era. That's a normal skill, but there's so much more that goes into psychic information that you can pick up. And obviously, because I have memories of being in Reyna's body, and you telepathically connect with people. I remember one time I was leaving a council meeting in the downtown area, and I was on that conveyor belt thing. So I'm on this conveyor belt thing. It's a sidewalk thing, and you walk, but it moves. And as I'm walking from my council meeting to my house, there's two Nordic guys walking same conveyor belt, but they're walking this way and I'm walking this way. I don't know how that works. But what's kind of funny is whenever I'm Reyna on Era and I get these memories, people make a lot of eye contact on Era because it's how you connect. Like you don't avoid people's gazes on the street. You acknowledge people. It's very normal because I was walking these two gentlemen were walking towards me, and when you see a person you make eye contact and you kind of connect telepathic, like mentally you connect with them. And so I was just, it's an acknowledgement, it's a hello, like I can feel that they were greeting me. So everybody has telepathic abilities, but not everybody can like see the Akashic records quite like the Andromedan Council can, or like certain people on these planets. And the Galactic Federation of Worlds will hire very skilled psychics because they're regarded as special.
And when you say hire, you don't mean we're going to pay you because there's no money involved. It's just it's a
There's
volunteer.
Yeah, there's no money. You know what's funny is the reptilians, when they subtly invade a planet, because they can't outright invade a planet because the Galactic Federation will step in. You can't go invade a lower, advanced, lower evolved culture. They come in and they offer things to a society when they take it over.
Right.
They subtly start. They offer the leaders. They make deals. They make things. And one of the first things they do to a planet they take over is they'll trick them into needing their help, and they'll I remember I was watching this episode on I think it's called Cosmic Disclosure, where this insider guy was he was on this planet where the reptilians made a fake threat. Like they just started sending down like these like fire asteroids, and then they came and they're like, hey, you guys don't have this technology, don't worry, we'll protect you. You just you just gotta, in return for this protection, just put a few of our people in your government, put a few of our people in this. And so they invaded this planet with the fake threat that they made. And then they're like, you know what? It'd be really easy if everybody just banded together, one world government. They like when you do the one world government because they can control you easier. One government, right? One of the first things the reptilians do as a control mechanism, they introduce money to a planet. They introduce a system of money, and it's the perfect control mechanism because they can figure out their way to the top. And if you have a society, one beautiful thing about the Pleiades is there's art, there's culture, people cook, people enjoy their lives, or people, are just, preparing stuff and enjoying their lives. It reminds me kind of more of a European lifestyle, like, in a la Greece. But it's because they don't have to work for money. Everything's provided. Do you need more food? Do you need more blankets? It's all just freely provided. If you have a society that we're just struggling just to pay the bare minimum and you're working yourself to death, it doesn't allow for this relaxed, loving evolvement of consciousness. You're not making as much art. You're not connecting as much as a society. You're not going into the higher mental aspects of philosophy and religion and morality. And you're just solely focused on trying to live. And it makes people greedy and it makes people steal, and it fosters so much bad will between people when, only the tough survive and we're just trying to survive. That it's disgusting how the reptilians foster this competitive, rat race that we're all experiencing. And believe me, Reyna assures me one day this planet will be free from that and we won't have to worry.
Well, it's amazing to me how loving we all are, even though we've been encouraged to be rats in a race, you know. So it's like we still have this incredible
Yeah.
urge to express our love, you know, and it's fantastic. But how soon do you think that Raina's ideas about the future are going to come true? Because you've mentioned to me in sessions that maybe 2025, 2026, 2027, we're going to start to have the real contact from the ETs themselves.
Yeah, what I'll say publicly, is that I've asked Reyna, when am I going to not sound so crazy to the outside world? And I can turn on my TV and see a physical Pleiadian man walking across the stage and shaking hands with the president. When can I turn on my TV and see that? And this was 2 years ago when she told me less than 10 years. So now I think the timetable is even faster. I would say less than 6. We're gonna have open contact. Also, I think something is happening this summer. She's hinting. She doesn't tell me stuff that's gonna get me in danger, and she doesn't tell me stuff that I could have my mind read and, blow their cover or blow their plan. But I think there's some big transitions coming up as far as disclosure coming up this year, I think. So we'll wait and see.
Right. Well, I remember I asked you about a certain shielding operation that Dan Cooper had mentioned in his interviews on Journey to Truth, and that was the one time that Reyna said, I'm not going to give you that intel. She's always open to answer any question, but with that, she said, I'm not telling you because it could, because the implication was that it could endanger the defense operations against the reptilian and the gray attackers, basically.
Yeah. She won't tell me anything that will hurt them or hurt me. She'll be like, I can't tell you. And I'll be
Right.
like, fair enough.
I always think it's so cool that Reyna and all the other guides out there, the millions of guides out there, are accessible at any time. Like 2 o'clock California time, you want to ask them a question, they're like, sure, I'll answer. They're just ready to help you. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love these people.
Yeah, that's great. And it's amazing. We all have spirit guides. I have two main spirit guides. I have Reyna, who's a Pleiadian, and then we'll call him G. I'm not gonna say his actual name. And he is a higher Earth guide, and he's new. I was assigned him being here. He works in the higher Earth schools, in the higher realms of the Earth planes.
Wow, it's so amazing. There's so much to learn, and I'm really glad to talk to you today. And we've gone for so long already, and I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
I've kept you for so long that I just want to keep asking questions. But maybe we could just do one more thing, or at least I'll see if this is a possibility for you. Now,
Sure.
normally when we have our sessions, or when you do sessions with people, you are in a darkened room, and when you access Reyna, you close your eyes, and I'm wondering if we could ask Reyna uh, for any last words, and maybe are you able to access her in a room with that much
Yeah,
light?
yeah. It'll take me just a second, but yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Let me
great.
we'll just see if she has anything to say. I actually brought my channeling crystals I like to hold to help me kind of ground.
Okay,
It might take me a second.
sure, sure.
She would like to note that while many of you are very strong in your objectives to bring forth all of this knowledge that you are passing through your multi-dimensionality experiences, you are re-remembering, you are bringing vibration and information from other dimensional planes. And many of you find this task daunting and frustrating to bring forth information much of this world is not ready for. We would suggest that while you are bringing forth important things to this conscious collective, to not push necessarily into the consciousnesses of people who are not quite ready for your information. We would offer that you should stay almost like a beaming lighthouse where you are shining in your authentic truth and your vibration, and you are shining with this beautiful information just out, just being authentically you, just radiating like a lighthouse. We would suggest that you look at sharing and disseminating your information much like this to be at your highest benefit, because everyone experiences reality in slightly different ways. Everyone is almost in a slightly different realm or reality that they've created in their own perception. And it is best just to radiate your truth while not enforcing and pushing your concept of reality on others. This is the way to move forward with love, respect, respecting universal laws and understanding as you bring forth this kind of information. that you are here and meant to bring forth? That's Reyna.
Boy, oh boy. You can feel the depth of her wisdom, you know?
Yeah, I started off a little slow. I usually don't do this with such bright light. It took me a second to get into it, but once I get into it, it's fully Reyna.
Wow. That's really beautiful. I'm glad we could do that because I assumed that you'd be like, nah, I really need the dark room and I can't really do it right now, but well
Oh
played.
shoot. My phone's gonna die. 1 second. I'm like 1% away. Okay. Sorry, I'm back. Um, yeah. Oh no. No, my phone died. Oh,
That's all right. The phone knows when to end the interview. Cheers. You'll probably be back in a second anyway. The phone, aka the universe, knows when to end the interview. I wanted to hang on a little bit longer because it was so good. Nevertheless, the universe will probably allow Vanessa to come back in to say a final word, and she can give us links and things like that. She should be coming back any moment. We'll just wait for Vanessa. I was so thrilled to be able to show you Vanessa channeling Reyna. I'd never seen that because it's always audio when I do sessions with Vanessa. And I always imagined that she was just lying on her back in a dark room. But she says she sits at her desk. She just told me this today before the interview and doodles. And then when she accesses Reyna, she closes her eyes. And then when she's talking, she opens her eyes again. Um, but there you go. You got a chance to see her in action. Here she is. Here she is. Her phone is slowly energizing, and we're about to see her image, but she is back in to give us some final words. There's no rush for any of us. Things are being taken care of by our ancestors, those who gave us our genes, the 22 advanced races who gave us their genes so that we can be what we are. So things are being taken care of behind the scenes. There's no need to rush. We don't need to rush to do anything. We don't need to rush to have Vanessa come right back on in the next 2 seconds. She'll come of her own time, or we'll just end the interview the way it ended with a little bit of comedy as her phone dies. That's pretty good. Comedy is a high vibration, so we can always use a little of that. There's no hurry to do anything. The tree behind me is not rushing to do anything. The tree, which is right outside my door, is in the moment, right? Feeling the environment, feeling the air, feeling the temperature of the soil, finding the minerals. There's no rush. If the tree doesn't find some minerals today, there'll be some minerals tomorrow to find. So we can be like the tree. Do we have to do it today? Do we have to do it tomorrow? Should we be afraid of not getting everything done before we die? Well, we'd have to ask ourselves, is death really real? I'll just answer my phone. Here's Vanessa.
Oh my God, Doc, I'm so sorry my phone died.
Wait, say that again?
I'm so sorry my phone died. Oh my goodness. Literally, I plugged it in and it died.
Well, isn't that just terrible that the universe should end our session with some, I mean, it's a comedic ending. It's fantastic.
Oh, okay. If that's fine. I'm happy to have, I don't know if you're editing it, but I'm happy to jump back on Zoom so we can say our goodbyes.
Yeah,
Whatever you want.
yeah, jump back on if you can, and because I want to get you to tell the people your links and say goodbye.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
I'll hop, same Zoom meeting?
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there.
Okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'll see you soon.
Okay, see you soon. La -dee 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 -dee. See? No rush. Everything's fine. That's a good hashtag. I got that on Facebook. Everything's fine. I just keep posting that as the world seems to collapse in on itself. I'm just like, everything's fine, hashtag. Don't worry about it too much. We all worry about things, so don't worry about worrying. Worry some, and then realize that it's going to be okay because we're out of the slave system. It's just that the slave system is still, the echoes of it are still here, but we're out of it. Here she is, the wonderful, the wonderful Vanessa Lisle with her love shirt on, the shirt that says love.
I'm back.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, everybody. My phone died. I wasn't prepared. I didn't realize we were going to talk so long, but I mean, it's been an easy conversation.
Hey, you know, whenever we have sessions, I'm always like, how much time do we have? And we're way beyond the normal time, but you're like, don't worry, I like talking to you. And because I keep asking these questions about galactic history, and you're actually totally into it. You're like, because
Oh yeah.
You don't know what Rain is going to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm even when we channel, I think you've asked some really cool questions to Reyna about like how planets are built and stuff. I remember that came through really interestingly about these different forces coming together to create energetic geometry that translates vibrationally into physical matter, and that planets are created by all these different consciousnesses. And I only know this because Jock recorded me saying this and then transcribed it for me. I was reading it, I was like, this is amazing.
I mean,
So
yeah, because I was like, where do they get the material? Where do these races that are intentionally creating planets get material? And Raina said through
ge-
you, um,
through consciousness geometry that becomes physical, they like think it into being.
right. So
Yeah.
she your words, Raina's words through you were they're not gathering material, they're just intending this frequential pattern that then becomes material.
Yeah. Yeah. Super cool stuff.
Astounding. It's astounding. Well, yeah, I've just posted about it on Facebook because I was revisiting all your videos this morning in preparation for this interview, and I saw that and I was like, oh, I just got to post that, and I wrote a long thing and tagged Tyler and Aaron from Journey to Truth, and because I want them to know how amazing you are, and how amazing you and Reyna, the wise Reyna. I love her wisdom so much, and I love that you're connected to her through in your soul family to this amazing woman, and I love how you explain how there's this difference between you and Reina, even though she's you in the future, she's you in the past. It's like our language doesn't quite live up to what we need to really understand, to really explain it so that we can understand, but I'm getting toward the understanding, and it's really nice the way you explain things. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. You're so nice, Jack. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, and maybe you could give people your links, your Vanessa Crystal Consciousness on YouTube, right?
Yes. So if you want to check me out, I'm Vanessa Crystal Consciousness on YouTube. I'm Crystal_consciousness on TikTok, or you can look me up as Psychic Vanessa Widergren. I am going to be putting out that book, The Beings, by the end of August. It's going to be available on all the platforms, Amazon, and I'm going to be posting about it. So if you guys want to follow me on YouTube, please do, if you're interested in getting the book. And then if anyone's interested in reading, I have my website links on my YouTube channel. Or you can go to vanessacrystalconsciousness.com, all kind of one word, no spaces, to sign up. And then I'm teaching another psychic mentorship course. It's a month-long course. I'm teaching that in June. So if anyone wants to take a month out of their time to really connect with their spirit guides, this is going to be my 11th level 1 I've done. And of all of my students in a month's time, every level 1 I've ever done have been able to read for people after a month. So if anyone's interested in being able to communicate with their guides for real in a month, I will teach you, because I teach it with Reyna, and so I can talk to your spirit guides and see what's going to work best for you. So I think that's what makes my class kind of different. But yeah, and thank you again so much, Jock, for having me on. I really appreciate this, and I very much enjoy your smart questions and our friendship. So
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I'm thrilled to talk to you at any time. And this is the first time that we've ever talked sort of in person. And it's great to see you as we talk, because usually it's just this audio. And I just have to imagine, you in this dark room with the cats walking over you. And
yeah.
but so just so people know, just as a recap of all that intel that you just gave, the information, your full name is Vanessa Lisle, Lisle, and that's how I shout you out in my lectures and the interviews and
Yeah,
stuff.
Lyle's the first name that shows up. My mom's last name is Lyle. My dad's last name is Widergren.
Widergren. Okay, okay.
It's
So
yeah,
yeah,
it's a Swedish mouthful.
so yeah, so you can find her under all those names, and that's it. I mean, we did the thing. We fulfilled our mission, right? It was a joy to fulfill our missions. Yeah, today.
Yeah, no, this is so fun, honestly. Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, I was just hanging out with my trees. I planted trees on the property, and I'm maintaining them, and that's my mission here on the property. But occasionally I get this urge from the realms, and it says interview someone and put them on your channel because that's your real mission. And I'm like, okay, I'll fulfill my mission. And then it becomes this joy, but it seems like it's going to be this arduous task, but then it's so joyful to talk to the guests, and it's been really wonderful talking to you, Vanessa. So thank you for giving us your time and fulfilling your mission today.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Bye,
And say
everybody.
say say goodbye to Reyna for me, okay?
Oh, well, she's here.
Oh, okay.
I appreciate that. But yeah, thank you again. Have a good night.
Bye.